Francisco Lindor. He may have just outdone himself.
The call on Mets Radio, 4-1 the win over the Phillies on Wednesday. New York advancing to the National League Championship Series. They took the series 3-1. Francisco Lindor with the grand slam. They'll face the winner of Friday's Padres-Dodgers Game 5. LA extended the series with an 8-0 win yesterday. Elsewhere, the Tigers shut out the Guardians 3-0 to go up 2-1 in that series. Game 4 is tonight in Detroit. Game 4 in Kansas City between the Royals and the Yankees. New York up 2-1. After last night's 3-2 win, Giancarlo Stanton with a homer in the 8th to put the Yankees ahead. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Shop Macy's VIP sale going on now. Use your coupon or Macy's card and take an extra 30% off the latest fall trends from designers that rarely go on sale. And save 15% off skincare, makeup, fragrances, and more. Plus, shop fall specials for even more great deals on top brands at Macy's. Savings off regular and already reduced prices. Exclusions apply.
What's better than one win? 3 wins. With Straight Savings, you keep your own phone, get one line for only $25 a month with real unlimited data, and get rewarded with a $200 phone credit after 12 months. It's a win-win-win. Head to Walmart or visit straighttalk.com today. Switch to Straight Talk. Less dollars, more sense. Straight Savings Plan enrollment requires compatible unlocked device and new line of service. Bonus device credit requires 12 months of active service. Offer ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. Taxes and fees apply. For network management practices, see Straight Talk's terms and conditions.
No way football is played in the fall and winter.
Because the hits don't hurt as much when you're numb. Get the lowdown on all the sports action coming up right here.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. A new week begins on this Thursday in the National Football League. It is week number 6. He is the mastermind of the pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. I am Ben Stevens. We get you set for Thursday night football in the start of week 6 tonight in Seattle between the 49ers and the Seahawks. A crucial divisional duel where San Francisco is a road favorite despite being the sub-500 team in this matchup. Everything you need to know around Thursday night comes your way in this hour. We will preview a monumental weekend slate in college football as well. And, of course, news around the National Football League as we get ready for that new week in the NFL. A ton of quarterback changes and some coaching staff changes continue in New York.
Yeah, well, this is it, Ben. Week number 6 of the NFL. It starts tonight with a divisional matchup. San Francisco's knocked off Seattle, I believe, in 5 straight meetings. Last year on Thanksgiving night in Seattle, they absolutely boat raced them. And now they're laying a 3.5-point number. And, you know, when you look at it overall, just from the numbers perspective, my heart says I want to jump in on Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks, but I just can't do it. I think it's San Francisco, and I do feel the over does come into some capacity a little bit later tonight.
We will continue to break down that game, Joe. It's a 3.5-point spread for a road Thursday night short week divisional game in favor of the team that is visiting with a rather large total. Everything about short week Thursday night football games tell you the Seahawks can cover as a home underdog in what might be a grimy game. That's what Thursday night tells us. This season might tell a different tale. But before we get to Thursday night, everybody underway now, getting ready for week number 6. The start of the weekend, Joe, is tonight on a Thursday. Huge divisional duel where the team that is sub-500 with a victory would vault up into that first place position in the division. That's the NFC West. It ends, Joe, with a monumental matchup on a Monday night at MetLife, where the sub-500 team, the New York Jets, who are a home underdog against the Buffalo Bills, with a victory can step up and into first place in the AFC East. And, of course, it's been the big news this week around the NFL. The Jets firing Robert Saleh. Yesterday on the Pat McAfee Show, formerly of the SportsGrid Network, we heard from Aaron Rodgers saying he played no part in the dismissal of Robert Saleh, saying that one of the main reasons he came to New York was because of his love for Robert Saleh, saying he resents the very insinuation that he is the puppeteer behind the Jets organization. Joe, I like lying on national television as well. I try not to do it here, though, on the SportsGrid network. That's what I took from Aaron Rodgers yesterday.
Well, if McAfee was still part of the SportsGrid network, maybe I would have jumped in for the interview and just, grilled Aaron Rodgers in regards to, okay, Aaron, if that's what you say, all right, did you call Robert Saleh or Woody Johnson and beg him to keep his job? Did you, he talks about resentment. He's the only guy and the only player on that roster that didn't make it to mandatory OTAs. He's the only guy that begged to have a gutless OC in Nate Hackett as his offensive coordinator. He wanted has-been wide receivers, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, Mercedes Lewis, all the guys he couldn't win with in regards to Green Bay. He wanted them in New York just to make him feel at home. But he's got no power, right? Give me a break. Nobody wants to grill Aaron Rodgers. And they should have grilled his ass on the fact that he threw 3 interceptions and cost his team the victory in London against Minnesota last week.
Yeah, you know what, Joe? I don't think you're wrong in that assessment. Aaron Rodgers has claimed it was all Woody Johnson, right? It was the ownership decision after a dismal 2-3 start with the weight of expectation this year. But it's only on Aaron Rodgers. And, Joe, that is the focus moving forward, right? We could take Aaron for his grain of salt. I would not, but we could take Aaron Rodgers for his word. Or you could be like us and many others that believe, of course, a coaching decision would never be made without at least prior notice / approval to their star quarterback and the 40-year-old signal caller in Aaron Rodgers. Or you could take it a step further and believe that Aaron Rodgers is the one who made the ultimate decision as he wears the pants in the organization. I'm kind of more in that camp. But regardless of how we feel, Joe, the onus, the responsibility on snapping a 13-year playoff drought is solely on one man. It's not owner Woody Johnson. It's not GM Joe Douglas. It's not interim head coach Jeff Ulbrich. It's on number 8 for the Jets. And his name, of course, is Aaron Rodgers, which makes, Joe, the move we heard about hours ago on this Thursday morning a little bit peculiar, or perhaps intriguing is another word. Interim head man Jeff Ulbrich saying that Nathaniel Hackett has been demoted as the offensive play caller and that Todd Downing, a member of the offensive staff and former OC of the Titans, is now going to be the play caller starting on Monday night against Buffalo. What do you make of that coaching change?
Well, again, I mean, is it going to matter now? I know, I talked to Carver at night. He wanted it to wait 1 week before they played his Buffalo Bills because he thinks they're actually going to, rally around Ulbrich in terms of this atmosphere. I'm not so sure. Here's the problem when you look at the big picture, right? Let's just look at the X's and O's aspect. They're not running the football effectively, Ben. 2 straight games now against Minnesota and 2 weeks ago against Denver. Above average defenses. That rushing attack was completely shut down, which made Aaron Rodgers in the passing attack completely one-dimensional. Do we really think they're going to be able to run on the Buffalo Bills? If not, and Aaron Rodgers is back there on third down situations, he's going to get battered. So I don't think things change just because there's an interim head coach. And here's the other aspect as well. As good as, that defense is, do they regress now without Robert Saleh there? I mean, he was the architect of that defense, the play caller. Now what? Nobody's talking about that.
Ulbrich is his guy, right? And Jeff Ulbrich is highly respected and a highly thought of defensive mind in the National Football League as well. Part of the PR spin zone for firing a coach 5 weeks into the season is they think Ulbrich can take the reins as the permanent head coach, so give him a 12-game sample size to see if he's the real deal. Hogwash, we've heard that a time or two. But, Joe, I think from a logistical perspective, when Ulbrich's been the guy dedicated solely to the defensive game plan and scheme, that's been his main priority. Now he's the manager of everything. And as we have shared many times, you can knock Robert Saleh for a lot of things. 20-36, 17-27 against the spread as an underdog for the majority of his time as the head coach, for never figuring out the quarterback position. Whatever you want to blame the head coach for, you can. The one thing you cannot, defense. The defense has been good enough since Saleh became the head coach in 2021. And frankly, Joe, they've been good enough this year to not be 2-3, but potentially 4-1. The Denver Broncos, as a touchdown underdog, came into your house and had 60 passing yards with a rookie quarterback and won by scoring 10 points. When your 40-year-old quarterback got sacked 5 times and keeps going, green 80, and it's confusing his own offensive line. I mean, I'm just tired of this whole charade. And that's my whole thing, Joe. Again, at the end of the day, it is solely on one guy, right? Todd Downing, now the new offensive play caller. I think Aaron Rodgers, who I believe to be the puppet master, is trying to take some of the shine off his best bud in Nathaniel Hackett, so you could throw out another scapegoat if the offense isn't on the uptick after this coaching staff change. It's on the 40-year-old quarterback who threw 3 terrible interceptions, including a pick 6 and a game sealer a week ago in London, who looks 40 years old, who's been sacked 8 times in the last 2 games. It's only on him to right the ship and to lead the Jets to the playoffs. And if it doesn't happen, there's one finger to be pointed and there's one person to blame.
Oh, I agree. But the problem is there's a lot of young players on there. Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson. Who are they going to turn to when adversity hits? Aaron Rodgers or the interim staff?
That remains to be seen. And we'll see who's there in 2025. The interim staff, Aaron Rodgers, or all or / none of the above. That remains to be seen. Quarterback changes in the NFL next.
Fall is coming.
Don't look like an idiot at work.
Know your stuff.
Football and everything else.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Hurricane Milton plowed into Florida as a Category 3 storm, pounding cities with winds over 100 miles per hour after producing a barrage of tornadoes.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
The storm tracked to the south in the final hours and made landfall Wednesday night in Siesta Key near Sarasota, about 70 miles south of Tampa. The situation in the Tampa area was still a major emergency as St. Petersburg recorded over 16 inches of rain, prompting the National Weather Service to warn of flash flooding there as well as other parts of western and central Florida.
CVS Health announced its plan to lay off 2,900 employees, a move that comes about a year after the pharmacy chain laid off 5,000 workers. Michael DeAngelis, Executive Director of Corporate Communications, says that the latest round of layoffs will be primarily corporate roles. The layoffs are part of the company's effort to reduce $2 billion in costs. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
In business, service is everything. Cintas delivers what you need to better serve your customers. Whether it's freshly laundered work apparel for almost any job imaginable, tested and inspected fire protection systems, first aid and safety supplies, on-site AED training, or mops and restroom products, stocked and ready when you need them. Better work days happen together. So visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Extravagant, luxurious, lavish. The $7 Lux Cravings Box from Taco Bell satisfies all your crunchiest, cheesiest, sauciest cravings. Indulge in a beefy 5-layer burrito, chicken chalupa supreme, Doritos Locos Taco, and chips and a drink for an unluxurious price. It's Lux for less. Get yours today at Taco Bell. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only while supplies last. Price and participation vary. Drinks excludes freezes. Tax extra.
Fall is almost here.
It's time to stow the lawnmower and get ready for all that glorious action coming your way. Stay tuned to SportsGrid for all the strategies, angles, and info you need to get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
A new week begins, week number 6 of the National Football League. Short week, Thursday night football game in Seattle. But Joe, for everybody around the NFL, if you're in action in week 6, 4 teams on the bye, Wednesday begins your practice days and where you start to get ready for a new week. So if there are updates to be had to a roster, to a depth chart, we hear about them. 2 spots in particular. In New Orleans, Dennis Allen naming rookie quarterback and 5th-round draft pick in 2024 out of South Carolina via Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler, the starter on Sunday in the Big Easy for a crucial divisional game in the NFC South. The Saints welcome in the Buccaneers. Joe, what do you make of the decision to tab Rattler the starting quarterback and not Jake Haener, who we've actually seen play in 3 games this year in substitution for Derek Carr?
Well, the fan base is ecstatic that it's Rattler. I don't know if you know, but I followed the. I'll send you the video in regards to the breakdown.
What's the guy's name? You know who
I'm Love. I'm Love. Hold the mayo. Hold the Am I live? I'm Love. I love Rattler. So I sent it to you. But no, the fan base really buys into Spencer Rattler because of the preseason that he had, in being productive with the Saints. And let's not forget, in terms of the Senior Bowl, was the most productive senior quarterback there, out there in Alabama. So, there is a body of work, and he's a friend of the show. I actually interviewed him at the Super Bowl, Spencer Rattler. So we'll see what he brings. I will say this, Jake Haener is no slouch either. Back in the day at Fresno State a couple of years ago, he led some monumental comebacks as well. It's just that I think the fan base, when you just look at all the Louisiana Saints fans, they were pushing for Spencer Rattler over Haener, and maybe, you know what? This team needs a little kick in the ass and a spark after Derek Carr tore, was strained and oblique. So we'll see how it plays out, Ben.
Yeah, it is a really interesting decision, Joe. Not to give the promising Spencer Rattler the nod in favor of Jake Haener, just in the way that this logistically played out. Spencer Rattler has been on the team, but inactive as the emergency third-string quarterback to the opening 5 games, where Haener has been the one on the active roster and came in for Derek Carr for a couple of reps in the opening 2 wins of the year for the Saints when they were blowing out both the Panthers and the Cowboys, and was the guy to fill in for the injured Carr last Monday night late in the fourth quarter against Kansas City. Now, for Spencer Rattler, 20 of 38 in the preseason, showed some promise, 202 total yards and a touchdown. It's not like they have invested a day 2 pick even. He was a 5th rounder. But there is some hope that he can excel in this scenario. And I'll just say this from the handicapping betting perspective, right? The Saints a 3.5-point home underdog, a really big divisional spot against a Buccaneers team who lost its divisional opener last week in overtime, short week against Atlanta, coughing up what felt to be a golden opportunity on the road in the A. But also, Joe, because of what Rattler had to say yesterday at his first media availability as he was named the starter. Talked about the offense and the guys around him. Alvin Kamara off to a great start this year. Rashid Shaheed, the speedster. But noted Chris Olave and said, anytime I'm on the field with that guy, I try to get him the football. Olave stock on the up and up this week at home.
Oh, what did he have? 10 yards. He cost me a parlay at the end. I had him for 15 and a half in game. He couldn't even get to that. He dropped the ball at the end of the game. But you're right. I mean, and we see this time and time again. We saw it with San Francisco not feeding the ball to Ayuk, right? And Debo. The pure number ones, teams that are struggling from an offensive identity, aren't getting the football to their main wide receivers. And this is an opportunity for Spencer Rattler to create one-on-one opportunities with Olave. I'm sure he's going to be licking his chops saying, you know what, I want 13, 14 targets in regards to this matchup. And the way Kirk Cousins sliced and diced that secondary might be a pretty good look in regards to that option.
Yeah, listen, it's not a bad idea, Joe, for a guy in Chris Olave who had 80 or more receiving yards in 3 straight entering Monday night, and then it didn't work out against Kansas City. Other quarterback news, Joe, maybe what was expected in Las Vegas is now made official. Aiden O'Connell is going to start for Week 6 Sunday afternoon as the Raiders host the Steelers. Do you agree with putting Gardner Minshew on the bench and naming Aiden O'Connell the starter?
Yeah, I mean, again, if Minshew wasn't moving the football and they lose that ball game by double digits to Denver, if you believe Aiden O'Connell could give you a spark, then why not do it, right? And again, he's a young quarterback. He had some success at the end of the regular season last year, led some victories. Why not put him in and see if you could develop him? And at the end of the day, if you feel that your offense can move the ball vertically over the top, that's the most important thing. He does have a live arm playing at Purdue, right? We saw him, and again, he showed glimpses of that. He was just a little inconsistent, but now put him in and see if he can develop with that offensive identity. Right now, at 2-3 overall, they have an opportunity to still make a wild card.
Listen, I think it's I think it's a good move ultimately for Vegas, right? For a franchise where not much is expected this year, to still try to be competitive, to still have an eye on the future. Ultimately, though, Joe, I do believe the Raiders will finish with a top 10 pick by the time we get ready for next April in the 2025 NFL Draft. I do think the Raiders will be selecting their quarterback of the future next April in the top 10. Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Shedeur Sanders, whoever it might be. And I say that not as a knock against Aiden O'Connell, who is still a second-year pro. He's 26 years old. He's a little bit on the older side of being a youngster in the NFL. And he did play in 11 games, starting 10 a season ago. It's not like we don't have a sample size on this promising guy. And just to say what it is, a fourth-round pick expended on him in 2023. It's not as though it was an early-round draft pick, but any draft capital is valuable. So you want to see if this guy is going to be a member of your organization into a second contract and beyond year number 2. I like it from that perspective. I am not overly convinced it's, hey, this guy can be the face of the franchise for the next 5 to 7 years. Let's throw him out there.
No, I agree 100%. It's a short-term fix with a huge upside if it plays out and works out.
I think that's well said. The Raiders a 3-point home dog on Sunday in Sin City against the Steelers. All right, Thursday Night Football. We break it down next.
There's smart.
And there's not smart.
Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Keep it here.
And win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
In 1994, the New York Giants retire Lawrence Taylor's number 56.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
LT revolutionized the linebacker position in pro football.
Big hit was made by Lawrence Taylor,
as he recorded 132 and a half career sacks and was league MVP in '86, leading the Giants to the Super Bowl. For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
If you've ever brewed your own beer, you may have discovered that bad brewer's yeast through a process called hyperattenuation can massively boost the beer's alcohol content, change its flavor, or, in a worst case scenario, make your beer explode.
Cheers.
New research by the American Society of Microbiology found that adding small amounts of one of 8 different kinds of killer toxins to your beer prevents bad taste, extra alcohol content, and explosions. But if not done carefully, might lead to other problems. Follow me at Chicapalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Moneyline.
I tried to save the city. Little bit of pride, New York. We deserve better. I am a Yankee fan, but I'm not a Giant fan. I'm not a Jet fan, but I'm a proud New Yorker. I don't like to feel embarrassed. I don't like to watch my friends embarrass themselves, my family defending garbage.
Catch Moneyline with Donnie Rightside and Kevin Walsh. Weekdays, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific. On the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go,
there you are.
Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you.
So now you can get the winning edge
anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you.
if you've got an earbud.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Thursday Night Football kicks off week number 6 of this 2024 NFL regular season. An NFC West divisional duel in the Northwest between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. Joe, Niners favored by 3.5 points on the road. Short week Thursday Night Football game. Total stands at 49.5. I'll give you my thoughts quickly before you give yours. Everything in terms of how I feel about these teams and this game tells me San Francisco, and we see some points. The 49ers off to a sub-500 start, 2-3, but still booked as the favorites to win the NFC. If that is going to be the case, you show up tonight, you make a statement, and you win comfortably, even covering as a 3.5 point road favorite on a short week. but the short week component of a Thursday night divisional duel does scare me off just a little bit.
It does, and that's why if I'm going to play it, and I did play the props, but I lean to the 49ers, I'll probably play it, Ben, the minus 172 parlayed with something, because I don't want to be taken into account with the key number of 3.5, right? If the 49ers lose this game, so be it, but I can't go down betting Seattle, watching them get blown out and going, you know what? How did I not know that, San Fran was the right side coming off the loss to Arizona? The reason why I can't buy into Seattle is I wasn't a big buyer of Seattle at the start of the regular season. I only thought they were going to be a 7 or an 8 win football team. The fact that they started 3-0, I was ready to sell them, and that's why I bet the New York Giants last week. So now, in regards to the spot, a team that has dominated them, by the way. I mean, I bet them last year on Thanksgiving night and watched them get boat raced, and I don't think Geno can attack that defense. Now, that's why I think we'll get points, but that's why I like the over here. I like San Fran on the money line, and I like the over in terms of the game.
Yeah, listen, Lacey guy, 49.5 is that total. Again, everything in me says that we should see some points. The 49ers, a 2-3 straight-up football team, have gone over in both of their 2 wins, scoring at least 30 in both of those games. Seattle's defense has a lot of issues, both under new head coach Mike Macdonald and just based on injuries. Frankly, both teams dealing with significant either season-long injuries or just week to week in the course of an NFL season. The Seahawks in their 2 losses, after starting 3-0, have allowed at least 29 points. Sure, some of that came on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown, but even Daniel Jones, without Malik Neighbors and Devin Singletary, led the Giants to put up 23 against Seattle. And so, Joe, I don't really trust this Seahawks defense, who has allowed, in the overall scheme of things, to go over in 4 of its first 5 games. The Seahawks just won 3-1 against the spread, just once as an underdog on the road in Detroit. They got hammered in that game by nearly 2 touchdowns and did not cover. And they have not even been great covering numbers when you would expect. The only cover this year came against Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins on a short week, or not quite short week for Miami, but short turnaround after the injury to Tua Tagovailoa the week prior. I don't really believe in this Seattle team. And again, Joe, despite a losing record in the opening 5 games of this year, if the 49ers are going to be perceived as a Super Bowl frontrunner, this is a game you must have, that with a win, even being at an even 500, you're back atop the NFC West.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's a Brock Purdy breakout game, and I say that because look at what Jared Goff did to them 2 weeks ago. Look at what Daniel Jones did to them last week without Malik Neighbors. He did it with Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson, so you have to believe that with Ayuk, Samuel, Jennings, Kittle, they can expose that secondary, and it's all Brock Purdy tonight. I think it's 275 plus. His number is at 252.5. I don't see any way they just run it and go conservative. I'm looking to attack. I got to go Brock Purdy in the passing game.
Listen, Brock Purdy's number 253 and a hook, or 254.5 now. Geno Smith at 250.5. Joe, we've got 2 of the top 4 leading passers in the NFL. Geno Smith leads all the National Football League over this number in 4 straight weeks with more than 1,400 passing yards. Brock Purdy at 1,374, 4th most in the NFL. He has been over this number of 254.5 3 times this year, but only once in a win. Then again, the 49ers only have 2 wins this season. Also booked as a favorite in all 5 games, Joe. They have covered in both of their wins this season.
Yeah, they have. And again, I still think we'll see how it plays out, but look for a bounce back out of that defense for San Francisco.
Yeah, they have not been great this year, allowing more than 21 points per game. Last 2 years, less than 17.5 points per game on average. Joe, we'll talk about the players and the props next.
The winning edge.
You've got it.
But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us.
But we're working on that.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Progressive presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash. Shop Chuck Sanders. Baseball playoffs on Wednesday. The Tigers took a 2-1 series lead with a 3-0 shutout over the Guardians. Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson each drove in a run. 6 pitchers combined for the win. Cleveland's gone 20 straight innings without scoring since opening the series with a 5-run first and a 2-run sixth in a 7-0 win. The Tigers have their first chance to advance to the ALCS since 2013 tonight at Comerica Park. The Dodgers shut out the Padres 8-0 to tie that series at 2-2. Game 5 is Friday night in Los Angeles. The Yankees got by the Royals 3-2 to take a 2-1 series lead. Giancarlo Stanton hit a go-ahead homer in the 8th. Game 4 is tonight in Kansas City. The Mets beat the Phillies 4-1 to advance to the NLCS. They took the series 3-1. Francisco Lindor hit a grand slam in the 6th. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. That's the SportsGrid Sports Flash. I'm Chuck Sanders.
Stirring fiber, exercising, frequent trips to the store for more laxatives and fiber. Sounds like your constipation with belly pain is a lot to manage. But if your symptoms that keep coming back are signs of irritable bowel syndrome with constipation or IBS-C, ask your doctor how Linzess can help you get ahead of it. Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LANZESS.
Days are getting cooler.
The shadows are getting longer. You know what that means.
It's football weather. So bundle up and keep it here for all the latest strategies and gridiron information.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
We are live on Football Full Circle. We are live for a new week in the NFL. It's the beginning of Week 6 tonight in Seattle between the Seahawks and the 49ers. Joe, we have talked about the quarterbacks. We have, of course, discussed the spread, the money line, the total, all of that good stuff. But with a total near 50 on a short week Thursday night football game, the odds makers are expecting offense. They're expecting production. They're expecting points. Let's move from the QBs now to the running backs. Jordan Mason's number, 82.5. Kenneth Walker III for Seattle, 63 and a hook. Jordan Mason has been solid. He's not Christian McCaffrey, but he's been very good. 77 yards in all 5 games at bare minimum for the 49ers. 88 or more in 4 of 5, albeit a very costly turnover in the final 6.5 minutes last Sunday against Arizona. The only time the Niners really were threatening a score in the second half, of which they were blanked. First and goal from the Cardinals' 8, coughs up the football. What do you expect out of the backs? Both Mason and Kenneth Walker tonight.
Well, I think Mason potentially could go under the 82.5, not because I don't think he's not up to the task, but I think the game plan for Shanahan has to be aggressive with the passing attack. And again, we saw the Giants not really run it all that much. It was the football in Daniel Jones's hands, short to intermediate throws, and then they took deep shots later. They got the running backs, Tracy, and all those backs involved in the short to intermediate passing game as well. So maybe Mason from, a receiving perspective, or some of the third down backs in that regard. I go Walker over the number because I do believe that Seattle's going to need to run the football to take the pressure off of Geno Smith. I know Geno's playing well, and I know they're putting up stats. But if Seattle has a legitimate chance to win this game, they need Kenneth Walker to get through the 63.5, 65. They need him to get in the area of about 80 or 90 tonight. So I would go over Walker, under Mason.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker III has dealt with a couple of injuries this year, but was really good early on for Seattle. Last week, only 5 carries in total in a weird game where Seattle fell behind early against the New York Giants, just 19 yards. But K9 has been pretty good this year. San Francisco not nearly as stout, Joe, up front or really defensively so far this season, allowing more than 21 points per game, allowing more than 110 yards on the ground, $169 last week against Arizona. A lot of that Kyler Murray, but James Conner pretty good as well. Last year, they allowed less than 90 yards per game on the ground, one of the 5 best rushing defenses in the National Football League. Now let's talk pass catchers, right? We've got 2 of the top 4 passing leaders in the NFL so far this season. For San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel. After Ayuk getting paid this offseason, albeit a little bit later on, struggled in his first 4 games, Joe. Less than 50 receiving yards in the first 4 for San Fran. Last week, nearly $150, 12 targets, 8 grabs. It was good to see him get back in the offense. I speak for that personally, as I do have Brandon Ayuk on both of my fantasy football teams. Not much out of Deebo Samuel, though, who was back and healthy for the last few weeks, and we await the status of George Kittle, some confirmation on his health entering this game.
Yeah, his number is 47.5. Now, against Seattle, he's had some big performances. I think he had a big performance the last time they played on Thanksgiving night, and again, 47.5 for Kittle. If he's somewhat healthy, I still like him to go over that. I think, again, those throws underneath are going to be George Kittle, and that's where I think he can eat. I'm not going to jump on Ayuk or Deebo tonight. I might jump on my guy, Juwan Jennings. He was held to 1 catch, 12 yards. Again, guy's been consistent for me, and he puts money in my pocket. He's got a cheap number yet again, right in the area of 40. So I'm going to Kittle. I'm going to Jennings. And I'll tell you what, if Ayuk's number dips maybe in game, to a level that I like, then I'll jump in on it. But I'm not taking Deebo or Ayuk in regards to San Fran. From the Seattle perspective, JSN is my guy.
Yeah. Sorry to say, I like that number too, though. 4.5 reception. You can't make the growl. The algo can't do the growl.
I'm kidding.
When it
I
gets
like
to
his
it,
yards, though. 46.5.
All right, I kind of like his receptions prop at 4.5. DK Metcalf, leading receiver in terms of yardage output for Seattle, more than 420 this year. In fact, he's the 4th leading receiver yardage-wise in the National Football League. But the guy who actually has the most catches, that's Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's got 29 so far this year. He and DK, the 2 guys with 40-plus targets. You'll see Tyler Lockett's number. SportsGrid's Tom Vecchio, Joe, as you well know him, is under on Lockett's receiving yardage output tonight. But JSN, 4.5 is his receptions prop. A lot of juice on the over, minus 146. Still think it might be worth a bet. And just to say this about your guy, Juwan Jennings, right? Nobody is a bigger Juwan Jennings guy, perhaps, than Joe Lisi. It wasn't just the Juwan Jennings game where he had $175 and 3 touchdowns, albeit in the loss to the Rams when they squandered that football game. Followed it up the next week with 3 grabs for 88 yards. In fact, Joe has been over his prop of 30.5, which is light and discounted in all but 1 game this year. For the first 4 for Juwan Jennings. Just last week, 4 targets, 1 grab, only 13 yards against Arizona. So it's not, I laugh because I know every time when you say I'm not going to Brandon Ayuk, I'm not going to Deebo Samuel, where you are going, but it does actually make sense in terms of your evaluation.
Yeah, and Brock Purdy seems to have confidence in Jennings, especially more so this year when Ayuk started slow and again with a short week. If there are short, let's say, critical 3rd down situations, he's going to be that guy that does all the dirty work. So I have no problem with that, especially if you're Seattle, right? Knowing that you got burned by Darius Slayton last week over the top. Take away the long stuff, everything underneath. That's Kittle, that's Jennings, and that's where I want to eat tonight.
Yeah, the Seahawks have not been great. They've allowed at least 20 points in 4 of 5 games, 20 to the Broncos in Bo Nix's first start of his NFL career, where he threw 2 interceptions, 20 to the Patriots, where Jacoby Brissett forced overtime in Foxborough against this Seattle team. And Joe, we've talked about the significance of this game, short week Thursday night football, albeit. San Francisco off to a 2-3 start, sub 500. We probably never imagined that at any point this year that the Niners would have a losing record for a Super Bowl co-favorite and the NFC Championship favorite entering this season. But even with how dismal the start has been, a win tonight, which they are favored to do on the road, they're 3-3. Seattle's 3-3. The other 2 NFC West teams and the Rams and the Cardinals are 2-3. San Francisco is back atop the NFC West, looking to win this division for a 3rd consecutive year. So one of my favorite bets for tonight is not actually in the game itself. It's the Niners at minus 115 right now to win the NFC West. They were greater than a $2 favorite to win the divisional crown before the year got started, hoping for 3 in a row. That number is worked down, but there's not even like a 4-1 or 5-0 team. There's not a surprise Commanders team like there is in the NFC East or, a Vikings team in the NFC North. It's just Seattle in front of San Francisco, and a win tonight changes all that.
Absolutely, and think about how beat up the Rams are, losing yet again to Green Bay. So this is an opportunity to really build off that number. And, I think on top of what you said in regards to the division, there's still favorites to win the NFC at plus 420. Haven't moved. So, maybe they got their 3 losses out of the way. We saw 3 losses straight in a row in the middle of last season. They reeled it off. Maybe they get right starting tonight.
What's also interesting, Joe, as we look at both quarterbacks, they have not been great touchdown to interception ratio this year. Only 5 TDs and 4 interceptions for Geno Smith. Again, he leads the NFL in passing yards. Brock Purdy is 4th most passing yards in the NFL. 6 touchdowns to 4 INTs, multiple picks thrown last week. Both quarterbacks need to play cleaner and more efficient football. But to Joe's point, San Francisco, despite a 2-3 start, still plus 420 to win the NFC Championship. Don't just take our word for it. The odds maker still optimistic about the Niners the remainder of this season. We've got a huge, and I mean huge, big ball games across the slate for college football this weekend. Next.
Yeah, it's getting cooler.
Football weather is here.
Stay tuned for all the latest odds, strategies, and info. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Hurricane Milton plowed into Florida as a Category 3 storm, pounding cities with winds over 100 miles per hour after producing a barrage of tornadoes.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg.
The storm tracked to the south in the final hours and made landfall Wednesday night in Siesta Key near Sarasota, about 70 miles south of Tampa. The situation in the Tampa area was still a major emergency as St. Petersburg recorded over 16 inches of rain, prompting the National Weather Service to warn of flash flooding there as well as other parts of western and central Florida.
CVS Health announced its plan to lay off 2,900 employees, a move that comes about a year after the pharmacy chain laid off 5,000 workers. Michael DeAngelis, executive director of corporate communications, says that the latest round of layoffs will be primarily corporate roles. The layoffs are part of the company's effort to reduce $2 billion in costs. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Lowe's knows it's easier to make the right calls when you have the right team. That's why our Lowe's Red Vest associates can help with game time decisions. Plus, use in-store mode on the Lowe's app to find what you need. Under pressure at home and want it soon? Order online by 2 p.m. to get it same day. Same day valid on eligible in-stock items and select zip codes only. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. Exclusions and more terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
Drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds, which could be life-changing. I mean, you could put that money towards that zero-turn lawnmower you've always wanted. And after using its edge-shaping technology to meticulously sculpt the face of the Mona Lisa into your grass, you'll become the undisputed king of Saturday morning lawn care, leaving your neighbor and sworn enemy Gary to question his place in the delicate neighborhood ecosystem. And it's all because you could save money switching at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
Live right here on Football Full Circle. Not only is it the start to week number 6 of the NFL season, oh boy, week 7 of the college football campaign. Sorry, I had a little something in my mouth there. Week 7 of the You got to take it now. You can't make fun of me like that and do my
Week 7 of the college football slate is as big as it's ever been. The best top 25 battles across the nation. From the East Coast to the San Gabriel Mountains on the West Coast in Pasadena.
Week 7 of 2024's college football season. Chloe, anyway, as we get this game going and as we get you set for the weekend, Joe, we've got 3 ranked versus ranked top 25 tilts, including a potential second game of the year. It is 2 versus 3. Number 2, Ohio State, on the road in Eugene, taking on number 3, Oregon, inside Autzen Stadium, under the lights in prime time, or at least under the lights by the time we get to the end of the game, because, of course, it's 4:30 p.m. Pacific. 3.5-point spread, though, in favor of the road team. The Buckeyes, the road favorite, Joe, in this matchup against Oregon. A matchup that will have implications on Big Ten title races and spots in the college football playoff. How do you see it playing out inside Autzen on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be a great atmosphere. I mean, Eugene's going to be rocking, and I really can't wait to see that matchup play out under the lights. And, you know, Ohio State is deserving, at least right now, to be the favorites of 3.5-point spread on the road. You know, they dominate Iowa. They get the win and cover 35-7. They grind out another victory. They sort of just waited it out before Cade McNamara made mistakes, and then they capitalized. Will Howard and that offense took their opportunities and took their shots. When I look at this game, though, Ben, I go to 2 factors. I like the fact that Oregon started to get Jordan James and the rushing attack going in regards to the victory over Michigan State. The rushing attack wasn't as dominant as it was in regards to last year, where they were up over 180 yards per game. But we saw that play out against a pretty good front seven in regards to Michigan State. The other factor for me, and I keep going back to this, and it's not a knock on Will Howard, but I give the experienced edge to Dillon Gabriel in this spot, right? Dillon Gabriel played in the Red River rivalry. He got the victory over Texas. Will Howard did win, you know, a Big 12 championship. I get that over TCU, but it just comes down to this is the biggest game that potentially he's played at. It's a road atmosphere with Dan Lanning and the Ducks. You want to give me 3.5 points. I like Oregon in this spot. It could go right down to the wire, but I'm taking the Ducks in the mild upset.
Listen, first time that Oregon has been a home underdog since 2018 against Washington. They won that game in overtime. It was also a top 20 tilt. These two teams have actually met rather recently, 2021 in Columbus. Oregon won that game 35-28 outright as more than a 2-touchdown underdog. What is so fascinating, Joe, is Ohio State has Ryan Day, right, in his 6th full year as the head coach in CBUS. And when you look at Ryan Day, if they don't beat Michigan this year, there will be many, and maybe rightfully so, that call for his job, that do not think Ryan Day can win when it matters most. The guy is 61-8. He's 18-8 against top 25 teams. All 8 losses coming against ranked teams. 7 of the 8 against teams that have been ranked inside the top 10. Joe, I do worry about this Oregon team. They've been better defensively and up front the last 2 weeks against Michigan State and UCLA, holding both the Spartans and the Bruins to 60 rushing yards or less. But they have not seen an offense this year like Ohio State. The only one you could argue that puts up production on the ground like Ohio State is who? Ashton Genty in Boise State. And Oregon won that game by 3 on a last-second field goal, and the Broncos scored 34. All to say, I actually kind of lean Ohio State in this game. Don't think my best bet will be laying 3.5 or focusing on the total. I'll find something a little bit later in the week. Don't love Oregon in this spot. Still believe with both teams, Joe, favored at a minus 800 price or better to get to the college football playoff. We will see both the Bucks and the Ducks in the CFP. Just not sure we see that upset this week, albeit inside Autzen Stadium. Let's get to another night game on Saturday, where the home team is a 3.5-point underdog. It's number 9 Ole Miss. It's 13th ranked LSU, right behind Joe Lisi, under the lights in Baton Rouge inside Tiger Stadium. Joe, there's a reason that they love to call Death Valley, Death Valley. And there's a reason they love to play those games after the sun sets. Under Brian Kelly, LSU was 11-0 straight up at home in night games. Since 1960, LSU is 242, 61-4 outright in-night home games inside Tiger Stadium. That's a win percentage of .788. You groan, which can only mean one thing. You like the Bayou Bengals getting 3.5, but you don't love it.
I don't love it, no, because why is the spread 3.5, right? And I'll throw another factor in. The Rebels haven't beaten LSU and Baton Rouge since 2008. They've lost 7 straight meetings. So that's a cause of concern. Last time they were there, Jackson Dart, I believe, fumbled 3 times and they lost 45-20. So that's always a cause of concern. Why is it 3.5 coming out of a bye week with an extra week of preparation and Ole Miss knocking off South Carolina? Now, I will say the front seven for Ole Miss playing very well, holding opposing offenses to 62 rushing yards per game, but I still have to buy in to Brian Kelly in this type of situation. Again, I think it's going to be a shootout between Dart and Nussmeier, and I expect a little bit of a bounce back with Blake Baker and that defense to make adjustments to force turnovers and somehow, some way steal it. Not going to be easy, though. This is going to be a game that goes right down to the wire, and I'll take the 3.5 with LSU.
Yeah, you know, Lisi Guy, it is very difficult to look at this game and think that the right side is favored. LSU hasn't been overwhelmingly impressive this year, but still under Brian Kelly, they're 2-1 straight up, and of course then against the spread as an underdog. However, Ole Miss did bounce back in a big way from its only loss of the season to Kentucky by hammering South Carolina in Columbia. Ole Miss is 5-1 both straight up and ATS, booked as a favorite in all 6. We'll talk more about the game and if we see offense on Saturday in Baton Rouge next.
The boys of summer become the champions of fall. The World Series is on its way. And SportsGrid brings you every angle. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning-fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it, and you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. 800-797-1292. That's 800-797-1292.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Ben Stevens.
So, we have a great college football slate on Saturday, with 3 ranked versus ranked top 25 tilts and many games beyond that are incredibly impactful. Joe, we're still talking about Baton Rouge. Saturday night game inside Death Valley. It's number 13 LSU versus number 9 Ole Miss. The Red and Rebs are a 3.5 point road favorite. Total is 62.5. It has come down by a point the under has the slight bit more juice. Joe, when you look at 6 of the last 7 games between these two teams, we have seen at least 61 combined points. 5 of those 6 have gone over this number of 62.5, of course, including last year. Ole Miss victorious 55-49, and the teams combined for over 1,300 total yards. But both defenses are improved. At least the Rebs are. Huge test for Blake Baker and the Tigers on Saturday. How much offense do we see on Saturday night in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, we know Nussmeier and Dart are going to put it up between them about, 70 to 80 times? I mean, they're not going to run it in regards to this matchup. There's no weather issues that I could see as of right now. So we're going to get 80 attempts in this game, at least, from each quarterback, right, combined. Yeah. I mean, the last time was 65 points in Baton Rouge. Last year, to your point, Jaden Daniels threw for a ton of yards. How about Dart? I mean, I got to go with the over, Ben. But again, the way I would play it, I'm not so inclined to jump on the pregame. I'll wait to see where we are in terms of the first 5 minutes. We get a number in the 50s, I'll probably jump on that.
Listen, Ole Miss is one of 4 teams around the country, alongside Ohio State, Texas, and Tennessee, that is top 10 in all of the 4 major stat categories: scoring in total offense, scoring in total defense. Ole Miss has been really good on the defensive side of the football and has the offense to back it up. Keep an eye on Trey Harris. That's Jackson Dart's top target, the top receiver in all of college football, 885 yards, 81 yards, Joe, in all 6 games for the Runnin' Rebs. Last week, he only had 3 grabs against the Gamecocks and still had 81 yards, 8 receptions in the first 5 games this year. I still question LSU defensively. It's a very tall order to try to slow down this Ole Miss offense on Saturday. Joe, the other ranked versus ranked game we have, also now an SEC showdown, is the Red River Rivalry. It's number 1 Texas and number 18 Oklahoma at the State Fair in Dallas under the watchful eye of Big Tex. It's a 14.5-point spread in favor of the number 1 team in the country. That's the Longhorns. They're from Austin. Is it too large of a number, Joe? Is the game more competitive?
I think it is. And you know what? I'm a buyer of this Michael Hawkins. He showed a little something in regards to the second half against Tennessee. He engineers the comeback against Auburn, even though the defense had the pick 6. The kid put up some yards on the ground and through the air. And you know what? Brett Venables, again, knocked off Steve Sarkisian. And that defense, to me, is pretty legit. I mean, they shut down Tennessee in the second half. They shut down Auburn in the second half. They've made adjustments. You want to give me 2 touchdowns and another hook? I'll take the Sooners in regards to this matchup. But I don't know if they win it, but I'll still, especially with Quinn Ewers coming back from hiatus, that could be a little ring rust in regards to this matchup.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting, right? Arch Manning, who has started the last 2 games. We haven't seen Quinn Ewers since the opening half against UTSA, now a very long time ago. That will be a big component of this. Joe, 5 times in the last 12 meetings in the Red River Rivalry have we seen a team lay double digits, and not even just 2 touchdowns, but just double digits. Those double-digit favorites are 0-5 against the spread. Why? 9 of the last 10 meetings have been decided by a single score or less in the Red River Rivalry. It has been competitive, including last year going to OT. Quickly here, Joe, it used to be a Big 12 rivalry between Texas and Oklahoma. Now a huge Big 12 game Saturday in Boulder between Colorado and 18th-ranked K-State. CU is 2-0 in Big 12 play, Joe, and if, like many people thought before the year, they can contend for a conference crown, they might have to win on Saturday as a 4.5-point home dog. Will Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes?
I like K-State in regards to this matchup. We'll see how they play out, but I think K-State bigger and better in the interior line, and Avery Johnson has a big day.
Big day for Avery Johnson, Joe. Rushing yards prop 67.5. Maybe so. He's Joe Lisi. I'm Ben Stevens. Football Full Circle returns tomorrow, noon Eastern time on SportsGrid Radio.
Now you've done
minute. You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.